Chapter 1. The Super Saiyan. In the year 736 of the Age of the Universe, on the hypergravitational planet of Gastan, all sentient beings have been utterly annihilated. A Saiyan with a crab-like hairstyle, a scarred visage, and clad in the battle armor of Frieza's soldiers sat cross-legged within a humble stone cave, suspended in midair, emanating a terrifying aura. As the Saiyan's power surged, everything around him became agitated. The stones trembled, and the cave shook as if an earthquake were unfolding. Soon thereafter, a horrifying transformation engulfed the surroundings. The sky darkened with gathering storm clouds, and bolts of lightning struck the cave where the Saiyan resided. The violent tremors caused fragments of rock to rain down, splitting the mountains asunder. Yet, as these stones descended upon the Saiyan, they were all reduced to dust by the fierce energy radiating from him. The apocalyptic scene escalated, with an overwhelming force piercing the heavens and stirring the very winds. This spectacle persisted for a full 2 days and nights. With a resounding boom, everything seemed to reach a critical juncture. The Saiyan's aura peaked, and at that moment, he suddenly awakened, rising to his feet. His arms bent slightly, and in an instant, he unleashed a tremendous surge of energy, his furious roar echoing across the sky. Everything around him was flattened, and his energy transformed into a brilliant gold as it intensified. His hair and eyebrows turned golden, while his pupils shifted to a pale green. This formidable energy shattered the layers of dark clouds above, instantly revealing a clear blue sky, with golden light illuminating the earth like the sun itself. After nearly a decade of relentless effort, I have finally broken through this barrier and become a Super Saiyan. Upon observing his combat power soaring to an astounding 250 million through his unique abilities, Bardock could not help but clench his fists in exhilaration. Although the physique belonged to the original Bardock, the soul was not his own. 10 years prior, the original Bardock had succumbed to severe injuries, leading to an accidental demise while being placed in a medical pod. A soul, one that did not belong to the Dragon Ball world and had dreamt of suicide and crossing into another realm, fused with this body, becoming Bardock, the father of the series' protagonist, Son Goku. However, this was not entirely accurate. Bardock had not returned for 5 or 6 years. Aside from having a son named Raditz, he had not fathered any more offspring, meaning that the original protagonist, Son Goku, had yet to be born. Upon becoming Bardock, the soul known as Zhao Zou was immensely thrilled, as in his memories, Bardock seemed to be the first to transform into a Super Saiyan, conveniently overlooking the progenitor of Saiyans, Yamoshi. Yet, reality dealt a harsh blow to Zhao Zou, for after his injuries healed, his control over this body was still lacking. Moreover, Bardock's identity as a low-class warrior had rendered him scorned by the intermediate and elite fighters. Upon arriving in this world, Zhao Zou had not grasped its true nature and continued to hold himself to the moral standards of his past life. The consequences were predictable when, during a meal, he witnessed a bald intermediate warrior coercing a petite female Saiyan. The other Saiyans laughed heartily, as this was evidently a common occurrence. A rush of righteous indignation surged within Zhao Zou, prompting him to approach and deliver a punch to the intermediate warrior, knocking him to the ground. The onlookers were momentarily stunned before they collectively activated their scouters to gauge Zhao Zou's battle power. TCH, this trash has a battle power of only 2,000, the Saiyans thought in unison, initially believing that a Saiyan daring enough to strike an intermediate warrior would possess considerable strength, only to discover he was merely a lowly fighter with a power level just above 2,000. Mockery and derision ensued from those around. "How dare you, you worthless low-class warrior, attack my comrade? They'll teach you a lesson." With that, the intermediate warrior retaliated, unleashing a ki blast toward Zhao Zou. Caught off guard and unable to evade, Zhao Zou was sent flying out of the dining hall, swiftly defeated in a single move and left unconscious. The warrior, known as that comrade, did not relent, shattering Zhao Zou's limbs in a final act of vindication. The Saiyans resumed their revelry, continuing to feast and dance. Yet Zhao Zou's actions were not without consequence. At least the female Saiyan had seized the opportunity to escape. Zhao Zou, however, lay discarded like refuse on the street, subjected to the ridicule and scorn of passing Saiyans, with no one willing to offer assistance to the unconscious figure. As night fell, once the initial group of Saiyans departed the dining hall, a petite silhouette cautiously surveyed the area. Upon confirming that the intermediate warrior was no longer present, she swiftly flew to Zhao Zou's side, checking his breath with a gentle touch, her heart lifting as she sensed life within him. The Onimeter 60 female Saiyan hoisted Zhao Zou's incapacitated form and flew towards the medical station. In her efforts to ensure his recovery, she exhausted all her savings. After enduring severe injuries and receiving treatment, Zhao Zou's body grew stronger, his battle power rising to 3,200. Additionally, he acquired his own unique ability, the all-knowing eye, which granted him the sole power to perceive an individual's combat strength and ability that, while seemingly trivial, proved to be directly beneficial. The female Saiyan who had rescued Zhao Zou was none other than Gine, the mother of Son Goku. This incident fostered a mutual affection between them, ultimately binding their fates together. As a result of these events, Zhao Zou came to terms with reality and embraced his identity as a true Saiyan, Bardock. From that point onward, Zhao Zou would henceforth be known as Bardock. In the second year following Bardock's union with Gine, Raditz was born, possessing just enough potential to meet the standards of an elite warrior, with a battle power of 101. He would not face exile and would have access to the elite education of the Saiyans, albeit at a cost. Bardock, determined to provide a better life for Gine and their child, began to accept increasingly challenging missions to invade planets based on his growing strength. When Raditz was 3 years old, Frieza, the nominal king of the Saiyans, made a sudden visit to Planet Vegeta. Upon seeing the infant in the stroller, Bardock's memories, dulled by time, surged back to life, reminding him of the impending doom that awaited their race at Frieza's hands. A cold sweat broke out across his brow. By the time Frieza departed, Bardock was left in a daze, and it wasn't until he returned home that Raditz, clad in battle armor, called out to him, while Gine cheerfully urged him to join them for dinner. Only then did Bardock regain his composure. As he observed the joyful scene of his family gathered around the table, he vowed silently to alter the course of fate and protect his loved ones. That very night, Bardock informed Gine of his intention to undertake a high-level mission that would require his absence for an extended period, urging her to take care of herself and Raditz. Gine, unaware of her husband's true motivations for seeking the high-ranking task, refrained from questioning him further, offering her silent support from behind. The following day, Bardock accepted the invasion mission concerning Gastan, issued by the Frieza Force. In the task hall, other Saiyans sneered at Bardock, a mere lowly warrior with a battle power nearing 4,000, daring to undertake a mission on Gastan. They mocked his lack of self-awareness. According to existing data, Gastan was classified as a high-level planet, home to beings with combat powers reaching approximately 50,000, with an average power level across the planet of 4,000. Bardock's actions were undoubtedly tantamount to courting death. Such missions could only be completed in the company of elite warriors, making his solo endeavor seemingly futile. However, the soldier in charge of task registration was not a Saiyan, and thus offered no substantial resistance, as Saiyans revered strength. These scientists, living under poor conditions on Planet Vegeta, were always at risk of being exterminated in a fit of rage, causing them to wear forced smiles while secretly wishing for the Saiyans' downfall. In their eyes, the Saiyans, as a malevolent race, had no rightful place in the universe. Thus, Bardock embraced the derision of the Saiyans and the schadenfreude of the aliens as he boarded the battle cruiser, departing Planet Vegeta. Chapter 2. The Terrifying Planet. The journey from Planet Vegeta to Gastan was estimated to take approximately 3 months. According to reports, Gastan boasted an abundance of mineral resources and subterranean energy, along with the legendary metal, adamantium, the hardest in the universe, which attracted the attention of numerous cosmic developers who offered substantial sums for the planet. However, due to Gastan's classification as a high-level planet, its civilization was deemed primitive. The planet's gravity was approximately 5 times that of Planet Vegeta, making it exceedingly difficult for beings from other worlds to acclimate to such inhuman gravitational forces. When elite soldiers under Frieza's command landed on this planet, their combat power would diminish several-fold due to the immense gravity. The Gastanians, having evolved in such a harsh environment, possessed naturally robust physiques and formidable combat prowess, deterring Frieza's soldiers and passing this dangerous assignment onto the battle-hungry Saiyans. This was partly at Frieza's behest, but also aimed at diminishing the higher-tier power of the Saiyans to prevent any uncontrollable variables from arising, ensuring that the Saiyans remained loyal servants to Frieza himself. In the course of these 3 months, Bardock had not been idle. With a desire to grow stronger, he understood the necessity of better perceiving and harnessing the energy within him. As a devoted fan of Dragon Ball, he possessed a certain familiarity with this energy, or ki, yet the pressures of reality had prevented him from making significant progress. Now, having arrived in the authentic world of Dragon Ball, he was determined to experiment thoroughly. Firstly, there was the generation of ki. The simple energy wave technique was a fundamental skill possessed by every Saiyan. This perhaps illustrated the advantage of their inherently robust physique, for it was well known that an ordinary Earthling might spend a lifetime striving yet never succeed in manifesting an energy wave. Gohan's method of teaching Dilly was centered on the generation of ki, a stage that Bardock, by contrast, naturally bypassed. Next came the perception of ki. In the Dragon Ball universe, each race had its unique ki, and every individual's ki was distinct. Bardock pondered whether there were corresponding races among the stars for him to explore. Lacking other races to experiment with, he could only attempt to sense his own ki while simultaneously trying to gain control over it. Finally, there was the cultivation of ki. Different races possessed varying methods of training. For instance, Namekians, endowed with prodigious mental strength, could enhance their combat capabilities merely through meditation. Though this method of training resulted in gradual power increases, it was undeniably stable. Combat could also augment strength, yet when compared to the Saiyans, the enhancement was rather limited. Of course, for those seeking a shortcut, Namekians had the advantage of assimilation, a peculiar method that could lead to rapid empowerment. A prime example would be Piccolo, who, upon resurrecting and assimilating with Nail on Namek, saw his power escalate from the tens of thousands to the millions, a staggering hundredfold increase truly extraordinary. More alarmingly, after assimilating with the Grand Elder, his battle power soared to approximately 700 million, allowing him to engage in fierce exchanges with the androids. Such an enhancement was nothing short of terrifying. However, Bardock harbored doubts about whether meditation might trigger an uncontrollable surge of energy, potentially damaging his spacecraft. Should his meditation lead to the destruction of a ship, he would find himself stranded in the cosmos, a fate he wished to avoid at all costs. After much contemplation, Bardock resolved to commence his exploration with the most prudent approach, the perception of ki. In the recesses of his memory, he recalled how Vegeta had effortlessly learned to control his ki after battling Goku and others. Surely, as a time traveler, he would not struggle to grasp the basics of ki perception and control. Reality, however, proved Bardock wrong. The martial arts wisdom that had taken others countless years to develop could not be swiftly unraveled by a Saiyan with no foundational knowledge of combat. At this juncture, some might suggest that he traveled to Earth or Namek to learn the nuances of ki application and perception, thereby bolstering his martial arts foundation. Bardock could only scoff at such an idea. Every Saiyan ship, along with the scouters, possessed tracking and eavesdropping capabilities. If Bardock were to mysteriously vanish during a mission or divert to another planet, the technicians on Planet Vegeta would automatically classify him as missing or a defector. As for seeking martial arts training on other planets with established traditions, such a notion was laughable. Would the Namekians welcome a notorious Saiyan? Moreover, Bardock had undertaken numerous missions to improve the living standards of Gine and her child, and the evil energy surrounding him would likely be met with lethal force from the Namekians. Some may argue that he could resort to transforming into a great ape. However, lower-class Saiyans lacked the means to create artificial moons, and Namek had no moon to speak of. As for the planet Metamor, it was likely that its inhabitants possessed combat powers surpassing even Bardock's great ape, Form 1, must not underestimate their capabilities. The inhabitants of planet Yadrit were even more formidable, possessing a plethora of secret techniques, and Bardock might not even stand a chance against them. Furthermore, in Dragon Ball Super, the Ydratans from the 6th universe participated in the Tournament of Power. Would you presume their strength to be lacking? If he were to go missing, both Raditz and Gine would face even greater hardships. The young Raditz might be dispatched to other planets for missions, where he could potentially perish during one of these tasks, an outcome Bardock dreaded. Defection was even less of an option. Both Gine and Raditz would be summarily judged and sentenced to death by King Vegeta. The crux of the matter was that Saiyans had earned a notoriously foul reputation in the 7th universe, one that was utterly infamous. As for engaging in amicable exchanges akin to fanfiction, proclaiming himself a good person, one would only need a glance to discern the righteous and pure energy emanating from him. Such a notion was preposterous. Any planet aware of the Saiyan name would swiftly deploy their most potent weaponry against him. Bardock had encountered this reality firsthand during his initial invasion mission. Upon revealing his Saiyan identity, the enemy had immediately attacked without so much as a word of explanation. As Bardock undertook more missions, he grew increasingly desensitized, realizing that the most effective means of persuasion was to eliminate the opponent. One was an invader, the other a defender. Such a scenario was inherently one of life and death. With the burden of Raditz and Gine weighing on his mind, even if he felt a twinge of remorse, he had no choice but to act decisively. After all, human emotions vary greatly. Time passed swiftly, and after 3 months, Bardock's ship descended upon planet Gastan. What should have been a normal landing turned into a rapid descent, culminating in a heavy crash upon the ground, leaving Bardock deeply pained, for this was not a single-pilot Saiyan vessel meant for deployment. As soon as Bardock emerged from the spacecraft, he felt as if he were bearing an immense burden, making every step a formidable challenge. Fortunately, this was an uninhabited zone, devoid of any formidable creatures. Otherwise, Bardock would likely have been dispatched to the depths of hell upon his arrival. Summoning all his strength, he unleashed his energy, which provided him with a modicum of relief and allowed for relatively swift movement, akin to a senior citizen's leisurely jog. Now, upon landing on Gasutan Star, Bardock's foremost challenge was to overcome the planet's gravitational environment. As for the return spacecraft, it would have to remain in place for the time being, awaiting the moment when he would possess the capability to retrieve it.